Hello, everyone. My name is Zulfiqar, and welcome to another episode of Income Investors. With me today is John Whitefoot with another exciting income pick. If you want to read more about what John writes on a regular basis, you can head to incomeinvestors.com, where you can find the link to the website in the description below. Few industries have been hindered by high interest rates like real estate investment trusts, or REITs for short, and in particular, mortgage REITs or mREITs. Generally, REITs need to borrow a lot of money to increase their portfolios, and higher interest rates can put profit margin and profitability, which negatively impacts its earnings and dividends. mREITs are especially negatively impacted to higher interest rates and should do well in lower interest rate environment. Lower interest rates bring potential home borrowers off the sidelines, and this means mREITs can purchase mortgage-backed securities or MBS at better terms. And the current interest rate environment means mREITs are able to borrow capital at a far lower interest rate than what mortgages are actually paying. And this should allow mREITs like Orchid Island Capital Inc., traded on New York Stock Exchange under symbol ORC, to buy more debt for the same or even less than it could in a high rate environment, and ultimately increases monthly dividends. John?
Thanks, Mo. Yeah, Orchid Island Capital is an mREIT that invests in residential MBSs on a leverage basis. Income it generates for distribution to its shareholders comes from the difference between the yield on its mortgage assets and the cost of borrowing. Now, the company's portfolio is made up entirely of highly liquid agency fixed rate pass-through securities, interest-only securities, and principal-only securities. Of note, September interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve had an immediate impact on the company's funding cost, with its interest expense for September down roughly 30 basis points from August. Now, as of September 30th, and that's the most recent data, the company had outstanding repurchase obligations of approximately $5.23 billion, with a net weighted average borrowing rate of 5.24%.
Looking at numbers, how did this mREIT do in the third quarter of this year?
For the third quarter ended September 30th, Orchid Island reported net income of $17.3 million or 24 cents per share, compared with a net loss actually of $80.1 million or a loss of 9 cents per share in the same prior year period. Interest income on the portfolio in the third quarter was up 34% at $6.6 million, minus interest expenses. Total net interest income swung from a loss of $8.6 million to income of $340,000. The yield on the company's average agency RMBS increased from 5.05% in the second quarter of 2024 to 5.43% for the third quarter of 2024. Now, Orchid ended the quarter in a really strong liquidity position with $326.7 million in cash and cash equivalents.
If you like what you see so far, check out incomeinvestors.com. While you're there, you could also sign up for our free special report titled 3 Income Stocks to Own Today. One of those stocks currently has a dividend yield of 12.7%. You can find the link to incomeinvestors.com in the description below. And now back to the video. And John, I see that Orchid maintained its monthly dividend of 12 cents per unit.
Yeah, now as a REIT, Orchid Island Capital has to legally distribute at least 90% of its taxable income to shareholders in the form of a dividend. Now, the company has a monthly dividend rate of 12 cents per share, or $1.44 per share on an annual basis, for a forward yield of pretty high of 18.34%.
ORC stock has double-digit upside?
Now, yeah, if you look at Orchid stock on incomeinvestors.com, you'll see that it corresponds to the direction of the Federal Reserve's monetary policy. ORC stock ripped higher back in early November 2023. After the Fed said it was done cutting rates for this cycle. Investor optimism further buoyed ORC stock after the Fed said it was going to start cutting interest rates, and it has done so twice since this past September. Now, going back since the start of November 2023, ORC stock has returned total profits of 50%, suggested for reinvested dividends. Had you elected to take the monthly dividends and run, the total return slips to still respectable, but much less, 26%. Now, while ORC has traded in a relatively tight range over the last number of months, it's still up 8.5% year to date and rallied 27.5% on an annual basis. And much of those gains, of course, came on the heels of the Fed's November 2023 announcement. Fortunately, though, Wall Street expects Orchid Island Capital stock to break to the upside over coming quarters, with analysts providing a 12-month share price target of $9.50. Now, should Orchid Island stock hit that target, it will be trading at its highest level since August 2022.
John, thank you so much for your insights. Just to recap, Orchid Island Capital is a financially robust mortgage REIT with growing portfolio of RMBS. While the long anticipated interest rate cut from the Fed are having desired effect on inflation, that doesn't mean it will result in extended easing cycle or go to the pace many on Wall Street expect. And that's because the US economy is doing so well and not expected to contract in near term. This will probably mean smaller and less frequent interest rate cuts over the coming months. On the plus side, Orchid Island's agency securities are generally fixed rate 30-year and 15-year securities. Hedges, meanwhile, have a long-term duration bias which protects a portfolio against any unanticipated rise in long-term rates. With that said, lower interest rates are obviously good for Orchid Island because it can borrow money at much better terms. And total returns should continue if Fed continues its easing policy, all of which bodes well for the company's reliable monthly dividend. This is also good news for 156 institutions that hold a position in Orchid Island Capital. Together, roughly 13.5% of all outstanding shares are held by BlackRock and Vanguard Group. That's it for today, and make sure to go to incomeinvestors.com now to get our free special report on 3 income stocks to own today. One of those stocks currently has a dividend yield of 12.7%. You can find the link to incomeinvestors.com in the description below. We'll be back with more income picks soon, so stay tuned. And in the meantime, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye for now.